A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express Papers Chandigarh edition. From today's news analysis, the bottom two topics, we do it in chronological order. So the bottom two topics are particularly important and interesting also. So one is, it was titled as Kozhikode, the city in Kerala, has been given the title or tag of City of Literature by UNESCO Creative Cities Network. Right. And besides, Gwalior is also there and certain other cities. So this is important for prelims. Right? What all literature is there? Why is Gwalior famous? Gwalior is declared as city of music. Srinagar for folk. So it is for the city of crafts and folk art. And I would like you to read all this additional information. And after this, we all know about the Frontier AI. Frontier AI is basically leading edge artificial intelligence. It also includes generative AI. So recently in the UK, there was Bletchley Park Declaration. So there was a declaration made on Frontier AI. Even an Indian minister was part of this summit. This was organized by the UK. Bletchley Park is in the UK. So this provides us a theme on the governance or global governance of AI. So this is of course important. And yes, we get more information also. So these two are particularly important. Besides, we get to know about FATF, Putin withdrawing from CTBT, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. And one more thing, the states of Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Kerala move Supreme Court against the governor. So the federal issue, the center-state relations, the issue of governor, the discretionary powers of the governor, is it something that is important for mains GS2? Okay, now coming to the news. First news today, of course, it is electoral bonds. Electoral bonds have been challenged at the Supreme Court. And one of the, the challenges to the electoral bond is that electoral bonds are highly anonymous. That is, who is providing funding, the source of political funding, if it is through electoral bonds, the voter does not know. So this is seen as something antithetical to democracy. There is always a possibility of kickbacks. The donor, if he has provided funding to the political party, so the people must know there may be a case of possible conflict of interest. The political party may be obligated to do something in return for the donor. So the clause of anonymity is of concern, and on this ground it has been challenged. The government has been saying that they are basically protecting the privacy of the donor. The Supreme Court has said that it is difficult to accept that voter has no right to know source of funding in the aspect of donor's privacy. So voter has to know as to the source of funding. That's what the main argument is there. So that is one thing that was discussed, or actually that is mentioned. So one is this, the difficulty in this, accepting this. The second thing that they have said is the issue of Companies Act. So electoral bonds are chiefly used by the corporates. They are chiefly used by the corporates to fund political parties. Previously, there is a law known as Companies Act, which regulates the functioning of the companies or the corporates. The Companies Act has said that only if a company is profitable and up to a certain limit of the profit, of a certain percentage of the profit can be provided for funding. The idea was that fake companies or shell companies are not created only for the purpose of providing funding to the political parties. Now, this restriction on that the percentage of profit only limit that cap has been removed. So this has been also challenged by the Supreme Court itself has made this observation over here. Okay. So again, this particular thing is concerning the issue of black money and illegitimate ways of funding political parties. Okay, so that's the electoral bond for today. We have actually discussed this multiple times, and you can easily find analysis of this topic, electoral bonds. Delhi's air quality index severe. So air quality index is basically a parameter to judge the health of the air. Okay. And one more thing I would like to say, AQI does not take into account carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is not one of the gases mentioned in AQI. I think this is something that is should be noted for prelims. Okay. Now, since Delhi's pollution is bad, therefore, there is a body known as Commission for Air Quality Management. This is a statutory body. They have invoked stage 3 of graded response action plan. So what do we get to know? There is a body known as Commission for Air Quality Management. This is a statutory body and they have invoked stage 3 of graded response action plan. So graded response action plan is basically a framework that is created actually on the behest of the Supreme Court, that they said that every year there is pollution in the NCR region. So there should be a well prepared plan. If the pollution goes beyond a certain level or AQI drops, then in that case, the following measures need to be taken. So you can see if the pollution is slightly manageable, so it is stage 1. If it gets worse, it is stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. And the list of measures are already mentioned. So we are on stage 3 as far as Delhi is concerned, which says PM 2.5 is 250 micrograms and PM 10 is 430 micrograms per meter cube. Okay, so that's it. CAQM is a statutory body. Please keep in mind. Yes, I have shared this on the Telegram. This is about the achievements of the Uttar Pradesh. It tells us about the schemes of the government. Briefly, we get a description also about these schemes. So you can keep a note of these schemes. I would suggest you read extra also, because previously we have seen questions on, let's say, Atal Pension Yojana, the beneficiaries of Atal Pension Yojana. So such questions can also be asked with other schemes as well. Yeah, this is the electoral bonds arguments that were there, which we discussed on the front page itself. Punjab sees significant decline in stubble burning cases in 10 major hotspots this year. So places where a lot of stubble burning was taking place, we see a decline. So Punjab Haryana belt, previously also we studied that it has declined. It is actually the UP belt where the stubble burning cases are increasing. So what what should be of interest to us is, like, this article is basically telling us about facts. You can see all numbers given over here. So what is the trigger as to why the stubble burning is coming down? So it is saying it's basically awareness programs. Awareness programs which have sensitized the farmers and thereby less stubble burning. I would say it is beyond awareness program. Everybody knows that pollution is bad. It is also commercial functions also, and there has to be more to it. So, previously I've actually jotted down points for stubble burning, how stubble can be profitably managed. So using of stubble to make fodder banks, composing of paddy waste, which can be used as fertilizers eventually, and involving youth for managing the field, loading out machines like happy seeder machines. Then we have also heard that there can be a joint ownership model, that one single machine may be expensive, so it can be owned by multiple people, or we can have custom hiring centers where machines can be taken on rent. Then there is a famous Nagpur initiative which uses the stubble to make briquettes. Briquettes are small cakes with agricultural waste and residue. So that can be used instead of firewood for cremation. That's it. Ethanol blending is not mentioned, but we can also talk about stubble being converted into ethanol. Next news, regional news. Not really regional news actually. So after Punjab, Tamil Nadu and Kerala moves Supreme Court against the governor. Against governor. So the three states are concerned with the actions of the governor or inaction of the governor. Number of reasons actually, and that there is, so you can see there is always a tussle going on between the non-BJP states and the governor. Governor is also said to be the representative of the center at the states level. Now, most recently, it is because of the governor, we see a common pattern that the governor is uh, denying the bills. So the bills passed by the Punjab Vidhan Sabha, or Tamil Nadu Vidhan Sabha, Kerala Vidhan Sabha, they are being kept with the bill governor indefinitely. Under Article 200 of the Constitution, it is the duty of the governor to declare that if the bill is, if he agrees if he withholds assent to the bill, if he basically rejects the bill, or if he sends it to for the consideration of the president, it is he has to declare it in a time-bound manner. Supreme Court has also observed that previously. So that is not happening. So one issue is, of course, the bill. Then with respect to Punjab, we are seeing non-convening of the legislature. There are certain bills that are pending. Because of the tussle between governor and Punjab, the governor has to call for a new session of the legislature, which is not happening. Then besides, we are adding points now, politicization of the role of the governor. So we saw with the West Bengal also, the present vice president had constant issues on governance issues with the West Bengal elected government and this thing. Likewise with Delhi also we see it. So politicization of the role of the governor. The governor is supposed to be an non-political, independent person. So that is not happening. Now, at the heart of all these issues lies the issue of discretionary powers of the governor. So what we are seeing is the governor using discretionary power, which is causing discomfort to these state governments. Now let us look at the questions that have been previously asked on the issue of governance. So I have opened a polity one from Drishti IAS actually. So they have compiled it nicely. Okay. So the only time we see the tussle between the governor, with the governor and the elected representative is when it comes to lieutenant governor. So two times we have had question on it. So one in 2016 and one on 2018. So whether the Supreme Court judgment can settle political tussle between Lieutenant Governor and elected government of Delhi. And when this issue was there in the High Court, then again this question was asked. You can find it over here, but it was there. A long framed question. Other than that, we haven't seen a question on discretionary powers, etc., but that is the theme. There was a question on governor using ordinance power without going to the legislature. So that question was there. I think here it is mentioned. Discuss the legality of re-promulgation of ordinance by the governor without placing them before legislature. So this is important. We have to look at it from discretionary powers. We have to prepare for all eventualities. Okay. Blinken and Austin, right? So their defense, USA's comparable defense and foreign ministers are to visit India for the next, in the next week for the 2+2 summit. So India's also foreign and defense ministers will have a meeting. So this is an arrangement that is between US and India, which is known as 2+2. And they will have a lot of things to discuss. There is the Russian-Ukraine war that is going on. Then there is this Israel-Hamas war. Then China's assertiveness in the Indo-Pacific region. So a lot of geopolitical issues that would be discussed. And of course, the issue of God. And let's add to this I2, U2. And beyond this, of course, they are going to discuss about early commencement of providing engines like GE414 for the Tejas aircraft, etc. So those things. Then what was that? Modular nuclear reactors or mini nuclear reactors. Previously, when Mr. Jaishankar had gone to the US, these things were discussed. So defense related, nuclear technology related discussions will also take place. Editorial and opinion section. Not much today actually. So let's just go by the headings now. So if you remember yesterday, we said that the last month's GST collection was at a 13-month high. GST collections. GST are indirect tax. So when we buy something, that time we pay GST. Okay. So this indicates more economic activity in the economy. It also indicates if the GST increasing, of course, logically, the government's revenues are also increasing. So what this editorial is basically saying is, with the healthy growth in direct tax and GST revenues. Direct tax means income tax. We have heard that more direct tax, income tax filing took place, and GST revenues. So center's fiscal arithmetic looks manageable, right? So fiscal deficit, etc., expenditure and the money that it has to spend for welfare activities, etc., that looks manageable because of uptick in revenue collection. Think nothing much to analyze over here. It's self-explanatory. This article is on quota issue, Maratha quota issue. It will alter state's political landscape. If you're enthusiastic about political aspect, then it makes sense. Not for, at least not for now. Now the next article is tricky terrain. So this is basically with Palestinian issue. So we have seen certain incidents in domestic politics, that is Indian politics, that when people are organizing rally or be it solidarity meeting, etc., on Palestinian issue, then they are, the people who are organizing this, they have been put into preventive detention or arrested. So preventive detention or detained by police. So doing this shrinks the narrow space for diplomacy. So when we say diplomacy, we are talking about India dealing with this issue of Israel, Palestine. And with Palestine comes Arabs. So on one hand, India says that yes, it's with Israel. At the same time, with Palestinian, it shows solidarity. But with this arrest and in the domestic politics that is taking place, it weakens India's position when it deals with the Arab countries on the Palestinian cause. So the narrow space for diplomacy shrinks. Next, holding each other up. Okay. This article mainly concerns innovation. So it's about innovation, and it says that innovation that is taking place, normally the government approach has been top down. So at the top level, the policies are made and then implemented towards the lower levels. However, if innovations are to take place, it has to come from bottom up. Yes, top-down supportive framework is required, but it has to come from bottom up. The communities have to be empowered. Right? It's simple. So for this purpose, and that's the main idea of this article, the government previously had come up with Atal Tinkering Labs. So Atal Tinkering Labs, so that at the school level itself, the children are inculcated with the sense of curiosity, creativity, and adaptive learning. The idea was to cultivate 1 million children, 10 lakh children, as neoteric innovators. Neo means new. Okay. So Atal Tinkering Labs. Now the thing with Atal Tinkering Lab is, imagine how many Atal Tinkering Labs would be there. Sizable. Then urban and rural. Now when it comes to regulation, observation, governance aspect about Atal Tinkering Lab, of course the focus would be on tier 1, tier 2 rather than the rural areas. So certain states on their own, like Karnataka, Andhra, Jammu and Kashmir, etc., they have come up with the idea of ATL Sarthi. Sarthi means charioteer, person who guides, right? And in this, what is happening is ATL clusters would be identified. So a lot of ATLs combined together, they will come under an ATL Sarthi. And ATL Sarthi is not government. ATL Sarthi is basically the people from the community itself, the school, the community, the stakeholders, parents. So all of them combined together. And they will regulate and observe the functioning of the ATL and see that the parameters are abided by. So that's it. Actually, that the main focus was on ATL because, and one of the reason could be that the author concerned is associated with Niti Aayog, so ATL. Now, what I feel is important, particularly from exam point of view, is the role of communities, right? So, in communities in improving governance. So, for example, read this line: it is important for communities to own interventions meant for them. It's the role of the community, which is basically bottom up approach, right? And here it is given the example of Amul. So Amul, again, it was a one-person initiative, but it led to the participation of the entire community of people who were, of course, breeding cows, milching the cows, etc., and then selling it in the marketplace. So it was a community-led initiative eventually. So when community participation takes place, when they own the initiative, it's that time that we see results, positive results over here. So this is something that we can elaborate more from exam point of view. Then, communities are crucial to success of government innovation initiatives. We just look at this line, and if we try to elaborate this, this will become a good theme for our GS answer rating, GS3 answer rating. This is something that needs more work. And again, from prelims point of view, the government initiatives, what all government initiatives have been taken for bringing in innovation. So that's again, we can look into it. I'll share the link, I'll share the PIB with you on this innovation thing. Next is, so basically Israeli troops at Gaza city gates. So ground offensive is taking place. They face resistance from the Hamas. Putin withdraws Russia's ratification of comprehensive test ban treaty, sparking fears of nuke test. Okay. So, so first of all, we should know the comprehensive test ban, nuclear test ban treaty. So, of course, as the name goes, that nuclear testing will not take place. Right? Testing of the weapons, missiles, etc., will not take place. That was the idea. Nuclear weapons will not take place. Okay. So this arrangement was there. Putin says that we don't want to be part of this. So automatically this means that it may mean that Russia will start testing nuclear weapons, start making more nuclear weapons, and ultimately it may lead to more nuclear weapons, nuclear arms program. That was the main reasons to restrict countries from making nuclear weapons. Okay. Interestingly, Russia was part of this, but US had never ratified. US signed the treaty, but never ratified the treaty. So US was never a part of the CTBT. So Russia is saying, why should we be part of it? Okay. And besides them, 7 other countries, so total 8 countries who are not part of CTBT, they are North Korea, China, Egypt, India, Iran, Israel, Pakistan, and of course, US. So 8 countries in all which have not ratified CTBT. Now, when we talk about CTBT, we should also talk about non-proliferation treaty. Right? So there is also nuclear non-proliferation treaty, which is about the measures to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. So India has signed neither of this NPT and CTBT. But now recently, India wants to be part of the nuclear suppliers group. China is opposing India's claim that India has not ratified CTBT as well as NPT. Okay, next. Not very sure how to use it for our exams, but let's say we should know what is happening in the world. Very interesting development in China. See, China in the recent times, they are seeing a slowdown in the economy. It's saying, interestingly, it says the Communist Party of China sees three problems. So where is it mentioned? Yeah, so it's mentioned over here. It is seeing a demographic crisis. It is seeing an aging population. It is seeing a slowing economy, and it sees a stubborn rise in feminism. So there are these three problems that uh, the Communist Party of China, which of course runs the government of China, so they see these three problems. Okay, so basically is demographic crisis, aging population, shortage of workforce, and slowing economy. So slowing economy means lack of jobs. So they are saying women should engage in their primary occupation. And primary, I would say inverted commas, right? I want to, yeah, primary occupation, a primary task, which is to marry and bear child. So they should actively foster a new type of marriage and childbearing culture. So when the economy is slowing down, they are telling their women that you should do this, you should do that. And it is very critical for achieving China's path to modernization. So of course, how can it be modern without the women? I don't know. So that is there. Now let's look at it. Let's say from India's perspective also. India is seeing a declining labor force participation rate. It was at peak it was 34%. It's now less than 25%, 22, 24%. So we can always look at India's labor force participation rate, female labor force participation rate. Why is it falling? That is an analysis that we can always do. Today I was just looking at we were looking at China. Okay. Please focus here, economy section. First, as always, we should look at the rates also. So oil rate has slipped. USD rate 83.26 rupees. Okay. Moving on. Labor issues increasingly getting discussed in trade talks. So Indian officials are saying that labor issues, industrial safety standards, etc., are becoming part of the trade talks. Simple. Violent extremist organizations in India collected funds through well-structured networks. So some of the organizations that are being checked by the government. So there is a mention of Popular Front of India. So they're saying these extremist organizations are collecting money through QR codes, etc. Right? So they're using UPI means, etc. They are collecting money which will eventually be used for violent extremist activities. And FATF has pointed out that many of these organizations work in the garb of humanitarian aid, charitable charitable trusts, non-profit causes, and they are crowdfunding platform. That is, they say that we are for charity, etc. They take money from the people using various means. So that's it. So, okay. Now we get this interesting term known as crowdfunding of terrorism. Crowdfunding, I hope you understand, taking money from the people. So crowdfunding of for terrorism financing. And what is FATF? FATF is mentioned over here. It's the Global Money Laundering and Terror Financing Watchdog. Right. So FATF, India is member of the FATF. FATF meeting will take place in June 2024. We are expecting it around that time. And talking about terrorism, terrorism is repeatedly asked in the GS3 mains paper. And of course, terror financing is also asked separately also in the mains paper. Right. So that we need to work. And now we get a new theme, crowdfunding for terror financing. Last page for the day, We have two, this thing. Both of them are fairly important. UNESCO's Creative Cities Network names Kozhikode as the city of literature. Kozhikode as city of literature. And it names Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh as the city of music. And there are about 55 new cities which are expected to join the network. Right, so 55 new cities are there to join the network. So we hear about UNESCO's Creative Cities Network. So this UNESCO Creative City Network looks at 7 creative fields. So one is craft and folk arts, which Srinagar is, right? So Srinagar, a city of crafts and folk arts. Design, film, gastronomy, that is restaurants, literature, media arts, and music. So Kozhikode was in literature, Gwalior was in music. Okay. So let's go with the flow only. So Creative Cities Network was created in 2004 and it is aimed at leveraging social economic potential of cultural industries. So you imagine you go to a place, and what this tag means for Kozhikode also. So whenever you go to a city, let's say you go to Jaipur or some other city. So what comes to you first of all, you go there because it is famous for something. You expect certain things. So when the UNESCO gives this title, that city of literature, so on one hand, it's acknowledging that yes, it is important for literature. It creates awareness about this. Plus, it also incentivizes the state governments to take measures to promote the literary culture or the music culture of that place. So thereby, it is important. So it is also seen as a, it's completely mentioned over here. Just focus on my cursor. Creativity as a strategic drivers for sustainable growth. I think that should not mean, right, sustainable urban development. Okay. So it helps sustainable urban development. It helps sustain that creative art, that creative culture. So that is also there. Okay. So that's it. So the urban, we have done UNESCO 7 fields, Creative Cities Network. Now, Indian cities in the network, we have, of course, Kozhikode and Gwalior. Varanasi is there for music, Srinagar for crafts and folk arts, Chennai for music, right? So these cities are there. I would want you to read more about this. Today, I just have this Gwalior and Srinagar. Gwalior is, by the way, known for, of course, the Gwalior Gharana of Hindustani music, and it is known for, it's the birthplace of Tansen. All the music gharanas of the countries have their origin in Gwalior Gharana. It's famous. Gwalior is in MP. Kozhikode is explained over here. So it says that Kozhikode is the northern city of Kerala, and it has a lot of Malayalam novels. The first Malayalam novel, Kundal Tha. Again, these things can be asked in prelims. In fact, this also can be asked in prelims, like match the following types. So we have Kundal Tala, which was authored by Appu Nedun Gadi. Then several other writers are mentioned over here. Right, so that's it actually. Now let us look at why Srinagar is famous. Srinagar for city of crafts and folk arts. So you can see some of the crafts from some shop. So it's famous for Kashmiri carpets. And there is a mention of the times of Zainul Abidin. Zainul Abidin has been already asked in your mains paper also. Is compared to the modern day, is compared to the Akbar, actually, Akbar of Kashmir. Then wood carving, copperware. So these crafts are there. That's it. Now coming to the last article. The UK government recently organized a summit for looking into the global governance framework on artificial intelligence. This summit took place in a very, in a very historic place known as Bletchley Park. The Bletchley Park was the code-breaking hub during the World War II. So it is here that this meeting was taking place. And therefore, the outcome over here is known as Bletchley Park Declaration on Frontier AI, right? Park Declaration on Frontier AI. Now, what all was discussed? So, first of all, let's cover that. So, first of all, it defined frontier artificial intelligence or AI. So, it says that it is highly capable foundation generative AI models that pose severe risks to public safety. Okay, this includes generative AI, it includes deep fakes, etc. So it defines it, and definitely it acknowledges substantial risks, risk to cybersecurity, biotechnology, disinformation risks, etc. Now, this is something that can be separately asked in the mains exam, and you have to prepare this. Some other time we'll do it. Okay, so frontier AI and associated risks. And of course, when we talk about that, then what measures can be taken? So now to deal with this, with this AI, we need to have international cooperation. Yes, domestic countries have to look, but international cooperation is also required. Okay. Next, US President Biden has issued an executive order to look into this issue of frontier AI. So it has issued an executive order and it is looking into the issue of red teaming. New term now, red teaming. It is the developers' safety tests. So the developers who are making these frontier AI and those applications like ChatGPT, Google Bard, etc. So their developers are required to do the testing, of course, and then report the testing to the US federal government. So the federal government will see, and if it finds certain serious risks, then it will ask the developers to make certain changes. So they can force a developer to tweak or abandon a product or initiative completely. So that is one thing, red teaming. Second thing is, with this issue of deep fakes, etc., imagine somebody's voice is used, somebody's face is used and with similar voice, and it can be used to create a message. It could be a big disinformation campaign. So what they're proposing is to codify the use of watermarks. That there should be watermarks in such a way that we know that this particular thing, even though it looks real, it is generated via the AI. So codify the use of watermarks. So these two things are proposed by the US. These are now, it's not like just US. You can use it for an Indian context also as your suggestions or measures for your answer writing. Next. Now, what are other countries doing now? So normally we talk about the EU, the UK, and the US. This is happening from a long time now. So European Union is looking at a stricter approach on regulation of AI. So they are proposing a new AI Act. So a new AI Act, and they will issue this clearance based on use case scenario, broadly based on degree of invasiveness and risk. Based of invasiveness and risk. Invasiveness means privacy, etc., and risk associated. UK is following a light touch approach. That you developers do whatever you want to do, but slight tweaks may be done. So light touch approach in the interest of innovation. US is in between the two. And we already know what US is doing, by the way, red teaming and codifying the use of watermarks. And what is India doing? India is saying that we have played a major role. We have pushed on envelope on the AI regulation. We are in favor of risk-based user harm approach, which is similar to what EU is saying, invasiveness and risk-based approach. Okay. So it is in favor of a risk-based framework. It is in favor of a global governance institution or international agency to look into the issue of AI and a responsible use for the AI. So that's what the Indian government is doing. This is an important topic which needs to be worked.